Hello, Dog Nation. Happy New Year. Let me welcome you into 2021. My name is Brandon Adams. Welcome into the Kroger Kickoff for the final time for the 2020 season on the first day of the calendar year of 2021. I am right next to Mercedes-Benz Stadium where in a little less than 2 hours' time, Georgia will take on the 8th-ranked American Athletic Conference champion Cincinnati Bearcats in the Peach Bowl, a first course for a big smorgasbord of college football here today that will conclude with the college football playoff semifinal games later on this evening. We will talk about everything that's going to happen in downtown Atlanta today on what is a very rainy downtown Atlanta. I don't know about you, but it seems like however many times in a row that Georgia's been here in this venue, in this spot, it seems like we've had torrential downpours for so many of those games. You can add today to the list on that. I'm decked out in rain attire, had to kind of run around to even find a place to do all of this today because it just wasn't quite as easy to set up as it normally is. But that's my problem. That's not yours. A lot of your comments coming up. We'll talk about who is and isn't playing for the Georgia Bulldogs. We'll talk about how they are able to take down the Bearcats here in this game and have a good time on what in the normal time slot might be Dog Nation Daily. It's still me talking to you, but a little bit different version of that on a game day preview version with our Kroger Kickoff. So settle in. Let's get ready to talk some dogs. But before that, a quick word from our friends at Kroger.
It's a football season unlike any ever before. Find out that home gating can be just as fun as tailgating. And don't forget, Kroger's got your guide to all the home gating essentials you'll need with at-home tailgating ideas to help make game day special for the whole family. Kroger will help you take your home gating to the next level with weekly deals and savings. Plus, you'll find all the fresh foods, drinks, and recipe ideas you'll need to cheer the dogs on to victory. So visit Kroger.com today to start planning your next home gate meal. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
All right, great stuff there. Glad to have our friends at Kroger as a part of what we're doing here on the Kroger Kickoff today, and glad to be talking with you about Georgia and Cincinnati, the noon kickoff for the Peach Bowl here in downtown Atlanta. Obviously, one of the big stories as of late over the last couple of days, and this really extends beyond, just football. The fact that the father of James Cook, the great Georgia running back, passed away unexpectedly this week. Unfortunately, terribly sad news. And as you might expect, James Cook will be with his family this week. And obviously everybody understands that. This story clearly hits close to home for me, for those of you who know what I've dealt with over the last couple of weeks as well. So, Dog Nation certainly, honestly, and, very sincerely sends out thoughts and prayers to the Cook family, to James himself. And, we just certainly are going to hold that family up and think about them as they're going through an incredibly tough time. And of course, there's also unfortunately, the football component of this too. The fact that, as I said before, James has been a very good player for Georgia, especially over the last couple of games where he's really found the end zone a number of times. And that'll obviously be one of the on-field storylines today. Georgia playing without Cook there at that running back spot. The expectation is, I think, that Kendall Milton's back healthy, that he might be ready to contribute. Certainly, we've seen some social media stuff of the Milton family here in downtown Atlanta, so they've clearly showed up expecting to see some stuff here today. So we'll continue to follow all of that, and of course, more from Zamir White. Zamir a little coy this week about would he or would he not be returning to Georgia next season, possibly a showcase opportunity for him to move on to the NFL draft with how he performs today. So clearly Zamir will be thinking a lot about that. The Georgia running game looking to step up, not just play without James Cook, but really play in inspiration of Cook. I know these Georgia players want to go out and get a big win for him today. They'll be thinking about him as they do so. And throughout the entirety of this game, I know as I'm watching, I'll be thinking a little bit about James myself. And certainly Georgia fans will be feeling very much the same way. So that's one of the stories that's out there. Obviously, we know that Georgia will be playing without at least two of its regular starting offensive linemen. At center, Trey Hill is still dealing with an injury. The expectation is that Warren Erickson slides in there at that spot. Ben Cleveland has opted out for the game. We'll see what for Georgia happens at the right guard spot. Last year in the Sugar Bowl, Georgia used kind of a makeshift offensive line in the first game of the Matt Luke coaching era. It went out and got it done against Baylor. This offensive line will be tasked with a similar charge here today. Of course, if you watch the American Athletic Conference Championship game, you did see Tulsa, despite losing the game to Cincinnati, you did see Tulsa have some success on the ground, nearly 200 yards rushing before you subtract away the sack totals. So this is a Bearcats defense that, statistically speaking, is very good, but there has been an avenue for success against them on the ground, and we'll see if Georgia's able to exploit that here today. By the way, speaking of Tulsa, as a possible preview of the SEC versus AAC that's going to take place here at Mercedes-Benz Stadium last night in the Armed Forces Bowl in Fort Worth, Texas, we saw a 3-7 Mississippi State team, a 2.5-point underdog, take on number 24th ranked Tulsa. They did get the win. Of course, the Bulldogs' victory was marred by an ugly brawl at the end of the game and really embarrassing behavior by Mississippi State. But nonetheless, it was our first SEC versus AAC matchup of the year, and the underdog Mississippi State Bulldogs did go out there and get the win on that. So we'll keep talking about all the storylines for today's game and everything that's expected to happen. Let me get some of your comments here on Facebook there as well, and on YouTube eventually also, as we're ready to roll here today on what is a big one. Shelton Tucker asking about the channel for the game. This game is on the regular ESPN network, so whatever ESPN is for you, that's where you'll get a chance to see the Peach Bowl here later on today. Andy Dunnigan checking in from Bartow County. Good to have you with us, Andy. Rich Olenek checking in on the show today. Great to be able to see you here today, and Happy New Year to all of you who are checking in here right now. Randy Whitaker checking in from Lakeland, Florida. Randy, appreciate you being a part of the program here today, too. Mike Anderson also referencing on the Facebook comment section what I mentioned a moment ago, that it's not a strong indicator necessarily for what happens between Georgia and Cincinnati, but at least is some indicator, at least an interesting preview, perhaps, maybe that's the better way to say it, for the Dogs and the Bearcats, the fact that SEC Mississippi State, a team with a losing record, a team that Georgia beat earlier this year, and a team that was a point spread underdog to Tulsa, goes out there and get that win. The one caveat here is the excellent linebacker for Tulsa that was really one of the nation's top players did not play in this game. So Tulsa, much like some of the Power 5 teams, was also dealing with some roster attrition there in that game. So maybe a little bit of a asterisk next to that. Chad Buchanan mentioning Azeez Ojulari. Ojulari's also been one of the huge stories of the week here as well. I think the initial thought was that Ojulari would miss the bowl game. Then either Ojulari changed his mind, someone convinced him otherwise. It now seems that Ojulari is going to go out and play. Someone with a very bright NFL future, apparently choosing to be a part of what happens today. Ojulari, one of the great players for a Kirby Smart defense here during the Smart era. And whether it's the final game for Ojulari for just this season or the final game for him in his Bulldogs career, you know Ojulari wants to put a big punctuation mark on this in downtown Atlanta with a huge national audience. A lot of folks settling in to watch a lot of football today with the playoff later on. The Peach Bowl is the first course and all of that. And I know Ojulari is looking forward to playing big on a big stage. A lot of folks really excited about that. Of course, in a normal day, this would be Dog Nation Daily, and it's around this time we do our Around the Dog House, usually delivered by our friends at Marco's Pizza. I'll still give them a quick shout out here today and remind you that as you're settling in for football here this weekend, Marco's Pizza goes great with that. You can use the Marco's app, marcos.com. You can get yourself some great savings. In fact, let me tell you about this deal right now. You can get a large specialty pizza and a large 2-topping pizza. That's just $23.99 right now. It's a Dog Nation game day favorite. So find that on the Marco's app or at marcos.com. And don't forget to be with us after the game today for our Dog Nation post-game show presented by the UGA bookstore when we give out our Marco's Pizza moment of the game. We'll do that for you after the game, somewhere from downtown Atlanta, either in the stadium or outside or wherever we can be. We'll be there looking forward to doing that with you on what is a very rainy day to start 2021 in downtown Atlanta right now. I'll get some more of your Facebook comments. I also want to pull up the show on YouTube, get some YouTube comments there as well. We'll continue to kind of rattle through all the big storylines here ahead of what's going to happen between Georgia and Cincinnati coming up at noon. For Georgia, probably something to prove on both sides of the ball for a Georgia offense that has exploded as of late. Big point total, more than 30-plus points in each of the games that JT Daniels has been the starting quarterback for, and more than 40 points in 2 of those 3 contests. I think there's a bit of a onus on Georgia to now go out and do it against at least what is, statistically speaking, a much better defense than what Cincinnati brings to the table. So clearly the Georgia offense faces some motivation. And as Georgia quarterback JT Daniels said this week, also the chance to just go out and enjoy what has been a very fun brand of football to play with this offense clicking near the end of the year, with Daniels distributing the ball to playmakers. They're having a good time right now. They want to keep that going. For the Georgia defense, let's face it, at times this year, that unit has not had a lot of fun. There is no other way to say it than the Dogs did not pass their 2 biggest tests of the season, giving up huge totals to Alabama in a loss in October, and then the loss that disqualified Georgia from the SEC championship against Florida in November. The Georgia defense that had been much ballyhooed at the beginning of this season really faced some criticism after that, and now against Desmond Ridder and a pretty good Cincinnati offense, one of the better quarterbacks that Georgia's faced this season. Clearly, the Georgia defense wants to come out and play well and have a nice showing against a good offense. Part of the reason that may be true why guys like Jordan Davis, Tyson Campbell, Azeez Ojulari seem set to play, and even Georgia's senior safety Richard LeCounte is certainly trying to give it a go. He's here and doing the best that he can to provide a spark for Georgia, depending on how long and how much he's able to be on the field. But clearly this Georgia defense is motivated to do something big today, at least they hope, against Cincinnati. On YouTube, more of your thoughts on here. Luke Brown looking forward to Keely Ringo, and that's one of the big conversations that will begin almost certainly right after this game ends, looking ahead to 2021 and how you fill in those spots and how you fill in those gaps. And obviously Ringo is one of the guys that will get a big chance to do that, with Eric Stokes opting out of today's game, moving on to the NFL. We'll wait and see on the future of Tyson Campbell. DJ Daniel has made it official. He's not returning next season. Ringo, who Dan Lanning, the Georgia defensive coordinator, did brag on a little bit here this week for how he's worked and tried to overcome his injury. They'll obviously be looking forward to seeing if Ringo can be inserted coming up very soon. A few more of your YouTube comments I want to be able to get to right now. Jackson Bates hoping to see Tyson Campbell step up today, and I know that Georgia's very glad to have Campbell in the mix for the game. Enrique Murillo says, what's my New Year's resolution for 2021? Well, the one thing is, after running around here and coming up and down these steps, trying to find a place to do this show, I was a little out of breath by the time I got seated. So I don't know that I need any other New Year's resolution more so than finding a way to shed a few pounds and be in a little bit better shape so I can run around these stadiums without getting as winded as I probably got today. So, Enrique, that's probably the direction I'm looking to go on that. Jackson Bates also asking about who's replacing James Cook, mentioning Kenny McIntosh, certainly a guy that has a chance to do that. I'd watch out for Kendall Milton to be involved in today's game, and obviously a lot more of Zamir White there as well. Thomas Van Santa going to be firing up the hibachi grill. Boy, that sounds good on a New Year's Day. Sounds very good if I say so myself. VTW hoping to see a better performance against the Georgia defense, against the spread style offense that Cincinnati brings to the table. I think a lot of Georgia fans would probably echo you on that. Few more YouTube comments to get to here. Christy says, I live 20 minutes north of Atlanta. It's raining cats and dogs up here. Yes, be aware we're playing in the dome, but it looks like BA is outside. Yeah, so I'm outside for right now. That's one of the things. Normally we try to sort of set up and get a nice view of the stadium, and it's fun to be outside before the game, typically speaking. But today I had to kind of come find an awning. I'm kind of covered up here a little bit, so we're kind of dealing with that. I got the rain gear on, but listen. And it's also one of those weird years in which in previous years when we come to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, we're usually doing pregame shows down on the field, and you have usually a little bit larger access when it comes to an NFL style stadium. But this year there's very little action on the field at all. So World Congress Center was closed up when I got here today. So yeah, this is one of those things where you kind of have to go sort of get tucked in wherever you are and find a way to get the show done. And so, Christy, we appreciate you and everybody else being with us here to ring in the brand new year. All right, let's see what else is going on. A lot of folks looking forward to seeing what's going to happen here today. Captain G asking about James Cook. Yeah, if you're just joining us, you may have missed the news from earlier in the week. Cook's father passed away unexpectedly. Incredibly sad news for James and his brother Dalvin Cook, who's running back for the Minnesota Vikings, as most of you are aware. Dalvin is not playing this weekend for the Vikings either, as you would completely understand. And as we said, near the beginning of our show, we just send out heartfelt, sincere prayers to Cook and his entire family over the loss of his father. Luke Brown on the subject of JT Daniels coming back. That was a question that Daniels did sidestep some this week, but my expectation is that Daniels will return. I certainly can't report that. That's not my intention. Just my opinion that given his health status, given the skepticism that NFL draft scouts have a tendency to approach any kind of injury with, I think Daniels wants to feel like he is as healthy as possible when he opens himself up to that evaluation. That, more so than anything else, is the reason why I think he's probably looking to return here. And that's obviously great news for Georgia, given the way that Daniels has played in his 3 games as a UGA starter. Derek Smith, looking forward to seeing Georgia kick some. He says, Bear. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. That should be pretty fun. DMart42 is hoping to see a lot of Darnell Washington today, is possibly a precursor to what Georgia might be able to do in the future with a Rick Gilbert. I like that on both fronts. Enrique Murillo says we can't keep LeCounte out of his last game. He will play. It's just how much that's the question. And Enrique would agree with you on that. Richard's obviously a gamer and a true warrior in every sense of the word. And no doubt he's going to approach today with 100% effort and everything he can to be on the field. I will say, and I don't mean to be the Grinch that stole Christmas on this, but the injuries that he sustained from the motorcycle accident we're part of, those are difficult to recover from in a quick amount of time. So the comparison I've used some this week is you almost wonder if what happens with LeCounte doesn't end up feeling a little bit like what happened with DeAndre Swift a year ago in the Sugar Bowl, where he also tried to give it a go and also wanted to be there and show support for his teammates, played some, but ultimately wasn't able to play very much. Maybe I'm pleasantly surprised and LeCounte plays even more than that, but that's at least a comparison I have in my mind. One thing to keep in mind here about LeCounte, there were games this year in which LeCounte was not playing that Georgia still put him on the travel roster and sent him. Columbia, South Carolina comes to mind on this, essentially saying that, at the end of our 70-man travel roster, someone like LeCounte, even though he was in street clothes, had a jersey on and, no pads, regular pants, someone like that is incredibly valuable to us because of the leadership that he brings to the table. And I think that you see a similar thing for LeCounte today. No matter how much he plays, his presence on the sideline with Georgia, traveling over from Athens, there's real value surrounding that. I believe that's certainly true for LeCounte, and as big a reason as any that Georgia is certainly hopeful to get whatever they can out of LeCounte. But even if he only takes a ceremonial snap near the beginning of the game, I think the Georgia coaches would say that his presence on the sideline and what he does to help keep the team focused, I think that's as valuable as anything, as valuable potentially even as an on-field contribution, just given the level of leadership that he shows. Next Friday, we'll be looking forward to be doing a regular Dog Nation Daily presented by Kroger again. And, of course, on Fridays, typically speaking, that means on the road with Jeff Sintel, assisted by our friends at AAA. Really have not had a chance to talk to Jeff yet about the Georgia recruiting class and what was signed for the class of 2021 because I was away from work for a couple of weeks. But I'm looking forward to doing that next Friday with Jeff. And, of course, many of you have been following along with him on Before the Hedges and everything else. Of course, don't forget AAA is also there for you as well when it comes to auto insurance. I should say life insurance. AAA.com, a great source for you when you think about life insurance, something you need to be thinking about anyway. A great New Year's resolution for the upcoming year is to make sure your family's well taken care of. Life insurance, certainly a way to do that. There are 3 different ways you can get in touch. You can give AAA a call at 866-695-0222. That's 866-695-0222. You can go stop by and visit a AAA office in person, or just simply check out this website, AAA.com/life. AAA.com/life. We'll look forward to seeing Jeff Sintel on the road, assisted by AAA again next week. Let me pop back over to YouTube here some more. We'll get a few more of your comments. Then back on Facebook before we get ready to wrap things up. Jackson Bates says Kendall Milton reminds me a lot of Nick Chubb. I think it's a pretty interesting comparison. Certainly there's a running style there that I think is similar. And a lot of Georgia fans obviously remain incredibly excited about what Milton could potentially do today and certainly what he could have in store for the 2021 season as well. There's a lot of optimism surrounding the future of Milton in a Georgia uniform, and I would say with good reason. Luke Brown also on the subject of Cedric Von Braun. Yeah, I think that Von Braun has a very bright future as well. Von Braun has worked out some in pre-games as kind of the number 3 center back when Trey Hill was healthy. I think you can also think of him as being a 2 deep at the guard spot. We may see him at guard today. This is a guy who was almost, it's kind of funny. SVP was not a 5-star. He was top 50 recruit, but not a 5-star. But you almost wonder why he wasn't a 5-star, because every recruiting evaluation I ever read about him was essentially without blemish, right? There was very little knock on his game whatsoever. He was thought of as kind of a surefire contributor, one of those guys that, how like in the NFL draft, for those of you that follow that, there's certain guys you draft and you say, well, this guy's just going to be a 10-year starter and we'll never have to worry about this position again until this coaching and GM regime is well gone. SVP kind of had a similar level of confidence around the recruitment of him that he would slide and have a chance to be a 2-deep type guy in the first year on campus. I think for the most part, he's at least knocked on the door of that. And a likely starter, I would say, for Georgia for 2021, possibly a big contributor here today there as well. This is one of those prospects that I think you have heard some good things about, that so far he has been as advertised. Very few offensive linemen step in right away as a freshman. But certainly SVP was thought of as a polished, somewhat game-ready recruit at the end of his high school career. And I think that the evaluations of him thus far in Athens have been pretty strong, I would say. I would say pretty strong on that front. Let me get a few Facebook comments. After that, I'm going to get ready to wrap up, get inside the stadium, and let y'all get ready to watch the game here today as well. Ron Williams checking in from Camilla, Georgia. Good to have you with us here today, Ron. We love the town of Camilla there. Great to be with you. Kevin Wood, we talked about Tyson Campbell a little earlier. Kevin also mentioning Tyreek Stevenson as a defensive back that has a chance to step up today. Stevenson is one of those guys that I think still has a very bright future at Georgia. In fact, I expect him to be a big part of the Georgia secondary in 2021. And what will be interesting to see is which position does Stevenson emerge there in that. He does have a little beef to him. You think about him as a potential star, a possible safety there as well. There's a lot of versatility that Stevenson brings to the table and a chance for him to possibly show himself maybe some today as a true cornerback as well. All right, Jimmy Durham expecting a big day from number 22. He means Kendall Milton when he says that. That's fun to think about. Let's see what else. Here on Facebook. Chad Buchanan ready for the game, excited and ready to go. Appreciate that. Let's see what else. Ron Winky Thomas says, glad Kirby finally has I'll use a different word than he did, the gumption, I'll say, to let the guys wear black jerseys for the bowl game. Yeah, I don't know that Kirby's afraid of doing it. I just think that maybe he doesn't like the extra distraction that potentially comes with it, fairly or not. But I do think for Georgia fans, there is some excitement about seeing those black jerseys here today. And as I said on Cover 4 Live yesterday, this is not because Georgia fans think the team plays better when they wear them. I don't think that's what fans think. I just think fans enjoy seeing them. I think fans think the players look good with the black jerseys on. Now, admittedly, I'm not quite as much of a fan of the dog collar around this version of the black jersey, but I like the black jerseys too now. It's one of the ways I've probably evolved a little bit. A pretty staunch traditionalist, typically speaking, but I've grown to really like the black jerseys, and I'm excited about seeing them today there as well. Kirby, I don't think, enjoyed talking about them pregame in the press conference that he did on Thursday with Cincinnati coach Luke Fickell, but I don't take that to mean that he doesn't necessarily like wearing them. I just think that he thinks sometimes the alternate uniform comes coupled with a distraction, and at Georgia the pass is probably part of the explanation for that. Let me also give a quick shout out to my friends at Classic City Lager before we roll out of here today. 6 and 12-pack cans. It's available at whatever retailer you shop at. I know a lot of you are looking forward to maybe take it easy here on New Year's Day and watch a lot of football and just kind of hang out, relax. Fun to have January 1st on a weekend, kind of roll right into a Sunday after this. So settle in and enjoy yourself. And some Classic City Lager from our friends at Creature Comforts Brewery goes great with that. It is just good cold beer. All right, so a couple more comments, and we are out of here today on a Friday for our Kroger Kickoff. We appreciate all of you being with us. Stephen Reed, thank you for the kind words. I really appreciate that. What has Shelton Tucker done to upset y'all today, by the way? Looks like we're starting 2021 the way we've spent a lot of 2020 with our Facebook comment section, upset about something related to Shelton Tucker. I'm not even sure what he said, but some of y'all are mad as fire at him. Mad as fire. Bell Jones saying, go Dogs. That's what I like to see. Glad to see Bell fired up and ready to go here. A couple more YouTube comments. And Luke Brown mentioning Monty Rice, his absence for the game today after the official opt-out and for the future of Georgia. Monty's had a great career, and it's another one of these guys, we talk about player development. Monty was not obviously a five-star linebacker, even a four-star linebacker. Monty was a lesser recruited player than a lot of the guys that follow him at Georgia, but he's gone on to a great career. I think he'll be one of the higher drafted interior linebackers in the upcoming NFL draft, at least on the basis of some of the mock drafts that I read a couple of months ago. He has a chance to be that. He had an outstanding career at Georgia. It's a feather in the cap for the Bulldogs for player development, but also just a tremendous credit for Rice, who is just I've had a chance to speak to Monty a few times, interview situations, things like that. He just comes across as a sharp guy. I've jokingly said before that he has an earnest way of speaking. You would just believe anything he said because of the way that he says it. You'd imagine that gives him great gravitas as a leader. His play on field obviously helps with that as well. Monty's had a terrific Georgia career. He'll be missed today and certainly missed in the future. And I always say that when you think about the kind of the woulda, coulda, shouldas, the what-if scenarios, Monty's foot injury that kept him out of the 2018 SEC championship, for me, is one of those real what-if scenarios involving an injury. I think that for everything that was kind of paid attention to, for other things that happened in that game, the absence of Monty Rice, I think, was also a very big deal there. Avion Curry wants to see Georgia make a statement. Can't wait to see that. Looking looking forward to that. And I think a statement's a good way to say what a win today would be for Georgia. Explaining what it was in 2020, suggesting what it might be in 2021. I'm here for all of that here today. Terry Dunaway shouting out Amir Speed here. You love to be able to see that. Great to see. Tim Harrell, pumped to watch the Dogs. And Tim, I'm right there with you for that. It's going to be a great day of coverage here on Dog Nation as well. Really appreciate you being a part of our Kroger Kickoff from downtown Atlanta. We've been here a lot in recent years. A little bit different kind of feel to today's game, but excitement surrounding it nonetheless. I'll see you after the game for our Dog Nation postgame show presented by the UGA bookstore, as I look forward to welcoming back our terrific analyst, former Georgia wide receiver Terrence Edwards, for that program. It's going to be a fun day, a great start to what we think is going to be a phenomenal 2021. I know there's so much optimism around the new year as we get rolling with that. What do you say we get it started with a big win for the Dogs against Cincinnati? Thank you so much for being a part of our Kroger Kickoff today. Stay close to Dog Nation for all of your game day coverage, and I will look forward to talking to you after the game for the Dog Nation post-game show presented by the UGA bookstore, and a whole lot more after that to come here in the year of 2021. Enjoy the game, everybody.